the Bible, there are many things that are misunderstood and mistranslated into English that comes from what we call Hebrew. First of all, we need to understand that that which we refer to as Hebrew is in point of fact not Hebrew, but Canaanite, Phoenician Canaanite. The bloodline is from the ancient Middle East called the Phoenicians. The Phoenicians, their area, that area in which Phoenicia existed was called Cana, the land of Cana. So today we refer to the Canaanite, Phoenician Canaanite language as Hebrew. All you have to do is go to reference books and look up ancient Hebrew, and it will tell you ancient Hebrew is actually Phoenician Canaanite. And it develops and mutates and comes down through history until today we call it Hebrew. But Hebrew is actually a Phoenician language. And many of the concepts and ideas which are expressed in the Old Testament are not original to the Old Testament. It goes back to even further back into ancient history, so that many of the concepts and belief systems in Judaism and Christianity are very, very ancient. And I believe that the Bible is one of the most important books on the earth, because it's really telling you some really interesting things, but if you don't understand how to read the symbols, it's never going to dawn on you how this stuff works. I think the New Testament is probably the most important story in the whole world, but not as history, but as a metaphor, as an encoded message. But let me go back to this one subject that I've been very interested in for a long time, and that is, in the beginning of the Bible, in Genesis 1:1 says, in the King James Bible, in the beginning God created the heavens and the earth. But that's not what it says in the old ancient Hebrew or Phoenician language. That's not what it says in the original language. That's how it was translated from the English, in the King's English. Well, the King's English, the King James Version, was translated by the best translators that the king had at the time. And it was very well done. However, they know more about the language today than what they did then, and so there's a lot of imperfections in the King James Bible that could be misleading unless you understand what the words actually meant in the ancient world. And so when you read in the beginning, this is Genesis 1:1, in the beginning God created the heavens and the earth. That's not what it says in Hebrew. It says in the beginning of the creation, El-lohim, El-lohim created the heavens and the earth. El-lohim is not the word God. El is a Phoenician Canaanite name or word for deity, El, E-L. We talked a little bit about that last week. Lohim is like adding an S onto an English word. You have C-A-R for car, or C-A-R-S, cars, more than one. So adding an S on the end, to the end of most English words means it's plural, in the plural. Well, that's exactly what El-lohim means. El is God, Lohim is plural. So the correct understanding should be read, the Hebrew read, in the beginning the gods created the heavens and the earth, not God. And more interesting than that, this is why, incidentally, in Genesis 1:28, when God is creating Adam and Eve, the first couple, and it says, God said, come, let us make man in our image, according to our likeness. Who's us and our? Was God talking to himself? Come, let us make man in our image, after our likeness. Later on in Genesis, I think it's 3, the scripture says, God said, here man has become as one of us, knowing good and evil. The point is, who is God talking about? Us. Here's man made in our image after looking like us. Here, now he's like us. Who's us? Who's our? Well, it's El-lohim, the gods. So consequently, what we're talking about here is that the gods created us, created the heavens and the earth and all things on it. Now, more important to and this is the whole subject, of course, you could take this, in many different directions. But interesting, in Genesis 1:2 says, and the earth was without form and void. That's another mistranslation. In the original, it does not say that the earth was without form and void. Actually, it says, and the earth became a waste and a desolation. Not form and void, but waste and desolation. And it was not, as I said, the scripture, if you read it today in the Bible, Genesis 1:2, says, and the earth was without form and void. No. The earth became a waste and a desolation. Consequently, if you go to Genesis 9, which is Genesis 9:1, where God is talking to Noah after the flood of Noah's day, and God says to Noah, now understanding that according to the story, everyone has been wiped off the earth in the great flood, and so God says to Noah and his sons, his 3 sons, go forth into the world now and multiply and replenish the earth. And you ask the question, wait a minute, the word is R-E, replenish the earth, meaning, not plenish, replenish, meaning do it again. Why? Well, simply because before Noah, there was a whole civilization. God brings a flood, according to the story. God brings a flood, destroys the world and all life on it. And now God is saying to Noah and his sons and their wives, go now on the earth and reproduce and fill the earth and replenish the earth. Well, that is a correct translation from the Hebrew, and I've talked to rabbis about that. And the word is replenish. R-E means do it again. Okay, it makes sense that God would be telling Noah to redo it again. However, if you go back to Genesis 1:28, where God is creating, the first chapter of the Bible, where God is creating man, and man and woman, Adam and Eve, he says to Adam and Eve, multiply and replenish the earth. Do it again, replenish the earth. Implying, of course, do it again. What are you talking about doing again? Well, if you just read Genesis 1:2 correctly, it said, and the earth was without form and void. No, the earth became a waste and a desolation. So the rabbis will tell you, and the rabbinical reference works will tell you, that what is being said in Genesis 1:2 and in 1:28, when man and woman are being created, is that God is recreating all over again. And so consequently, the Bible, the Old Testament, is a story for this dispensation. This time the world is being recreated.